Okay, so hopefully it'll work for us, this recording, but we'll see. I have a series of panoramas that you can play with. If we go to the course website and log in, and you go to Exercises, Digital Tools 1, go to Fall 2014, and pick Exercise 108. This is what you're working through today. At the bottom here, there's a set of sample images. I took down the link to this first one because when I tried to do the sample this morning, it kept erroring on me, so we got rid of that one. If you want either of these, click on it, and it'll take you to a Dropbox page where you can download it. Because they're such big files, I don't want to have to run that through my server. We'll let it run through Dropbox's server. And so you can go ahead and download those files. They're in a zip file, so you'll have to extract them once they come down. And if you have trouble with that, of course, I'll help you through that. I have a 135 folder, Exercise 108. Here are the downloaded versions. And so I'm going to pick this Peru one for right now. If we switch to view large icons, you can see that you all saw this one as one of my examples. And we can kind of go through and see how they all combine together. Like that, the series of images. There should be 12 images per, although in this set there may be more because it was shot with my old camera. Yeah, they're similar. You do want to make sure as you're kind of scanning through that you're not getting duplicates, because sometimes when I shoot I end up with duplicates, which can cause problems. So what we'll do is we'll start in Photoshop and we'll work through how to stitch images together in Photoshop. There is a tutorial for this. It's Photoshop 1.7 panoramas, and so you can follow along with this. I also have a video that walks you through it in case you want to go through it that way. But what we'll do is we'll go ahead and open Photoshop. I do want to make sure that I open Photoshop CS6, not CS3. So we'll open Photoshop CS6. And give it just a second to load up here. And then just like with the HDR, merge to HDR, we're going to use an automated action. And so we'll go to File, Automate, and this time instead of doing merge to HDR, we're going to do Photo Merge. And so I'll click on Photo Merge, and it brings up a similar dialog box to the Merge to HDR. Generally under the Layout tab, I elect to use Auto because it'll determine the best results for us. I'm going to go ahead and click Browse for the files, and I'm going to go to my 108, and we'll go to this set. And because I don't want to throw all of these images at it, I'm going to use large icons to kind of pick a series of images. So we'll say, I don't know, this one, and this one, and maybe we'll load in this, something like that. And I'll go ahead and say OK. And so I have like 6 images, something like that is fine. And notice that it says blend images together. That's perfect. I have that checked. And I'll go ahead and say OK. And the good news is this is a relatively simple process in Photoshop, in that Photoshop is going to try to figure out what I wanted it to do in the first place. And so you can see that it's doing a bunch of stuff while I'm sitting here watching in terms of trying to cut out certain pieces of images and combine those pieces together. And lo and behold, it did a pretty decent job. And so it took those 6 separate images, right, 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, and 6. It stitched those together in such a way that they're relatively seamless. And if you go look at the panoramas that were shot for 220 and you look at them, they're not, there's errors, they're not quite as seamless as they could be. If we look at the layers themselves, notice that all of the layers have layer masks on them. And so let's look at just this piece. Okay? What Photoshop did is it said, let me just hide this for just a second. Right? It took the original image, warped it a bit, and then applied a layer mask on it to cut it out in such a way that it would seam together with the next image, which is right here. Okay? Likewise, this image has a layer mask on it such that it's cut out. So if we turn all of these back on, right, they become a very seamless grouping of images, but each one is a distinct little chunk that's cut together. And Photoshop is very smart about how it does it. Notice that it found the edge right here where it goes into kind of being further away. It also found this edge along the top and is using those two to help combine those in a seamless manner. Okay? So what I'm going to ask you to do for today's exercise is to do one set of images in Photoshop. This is a good place to try out your own images. Remember in exercise 104, I asked you to go out and shoot some panoramic images or a set of images that you could stitch together. Go ahead and bring those into Photoshop, see how they do. The key is always how much overlap you have. The more overlap, the easier it is to stitch them together. So that's working on panoramas in Photoshop. Generally, it creates these nice little vignettes of a certain scene where you've combined images together. It doesn't work particularly well if we were to throw more images at it. So let's try a few more images. Let me go to File, Automate, Photo Merge, and let's just see what happens if we pick a few more. So let's say this, 2, 3, 6, and let's see if we can do. So I threw 18 images at it, and let's see how Photoshop does with it. And I like to do this kind of an experiment because I want you to see where it starts to break down. Now maybe it'll do a really good job, and we'll see. Obviously a much bigger grouping of layers that it's going to try to work through. So today will be spent with a lot of this kind of waiting to see while these software features do their processing. Okay, it actually did a pretty decent job. Surprised me. So these were the images that I picked. We can see how they've come together, and it did a pretty seamless job. So we end up with kind of this blobby sort of shape, but it's a pretty good representation of what this end of the building were to look like. And so that's the purpose of this sort of photo merge. It may be that Photoshop is doing a significantly better job at it because this is CS6. We'll see. So anyway, I'll probably try one a little bit later where I'll throw all of it at it and see what it can do with it, but it tends to get lost at that point. So I'm going to go ahead and click the minimize button here, and I'm going to explore the other option, which is called Hugin. And there's a little icon for it down in the taskbar here. I have no idea why it installs there versus somewhere else, but that's where it is. It's a little person with a panorama behind it. And I'm going to go ahead and create a new, so I'll go to File, New. And this panorama stitcher basically has an assistant that is going to help walk you through things. And so we're going to start with loading our images. And for the sake of time, I'm only going to load the first bit here. It is always helpful if we look at the pictures and make sure that we find ones that we like. I'm going to come all the way to right here with that grouping, so I haven't gone up or down in this set. I'll come back and do one with a few more. But we'll go ahead and say open. It will look automatically for what the focal length was and what the focal length multiplier was for your particular camera. This was shot with my old camera, which is why it's all wonky, but that's fine. Once we're done, we'll move to step 2, which is align, and this is where it will run the assistant. And when it's running the assistant, the first thing it'll do is analyze the image, and then it'll start to combine images. It'll say between image 0 and image 1, how many matches are there? And so this is looking for features that are the same in one image and the next image. And so the more images that you throw at this, the longer this sort of thing takes, but that was relatively quick. And so if we look at it, it'll come up with the fast preview, and we can see that it's stitched straight across, this particular set of images. Now the advantage here is it'll tell us some information. It'll say images are connected by 458 control points. That's pretty good. The mean error was 4.8 pixels. The max was 11.8. Bad fit. Some of the control points might be bad, or there might be parallax or problems. And so this is not uncommon to get something like that. We can, however, click on this control points tab, and we can compare image to image. So if I do image 0 to image 1, you can see all the points that it picked that are the same between image 0 and image 1. Right? Likewise, if we move between, say, image 2 right, and image 3, we can see another set of similar control points. And this has to do with how you overlap the particular images. Okay? We can also sort and see how far the control points are off, which can sometimes help us find ones that are incorrectly assigned. Once we get done with this particular set, we can go to the Create Panorama tab, which will actually create a PTO file for us. It's going to ask us to save it first. So let me go ahead and save. That's not going to go there for now. Okay, let's go to Create Panorama. Nope. Let's go and get some options. Let's go to Stitcher here. It's going to ask us what type of projection we want. So we'll do a cylindrical projection. It'll say what kind of exposure fused as a JPEG. And I should go through and write out what you should pick for these. You can see there's a bunch of options. Part of the problem is that these change so much. And then you go ahead and click Stitch, and it should output a file for us. So we'll put it there for right now, and we'll click Save and see what happens. And so we'll go ahead and let it run through its process. So this stuff takes some time, but we'll see. I'll try to identify exactly which options you should pick. I think I wrote out some options, but it might be out of date as they move things around for what the output should be. It looks like I have some options. I'll go back and double check and make sure that those are still valid. So start with Photoshop, create a grouping of images that are stitched together. After that, throw some images at Hugin, see how it does, and then post your images, and you'll be good to go. For this exercise, you don't need to write comments. Remember, you should have written your comments for the assignment. I have not finished grading the assignment yet. I'm going to try to get through it this afternoon, but I can't make any promises. But I should get it back to you either on Wednesday or the following Monday. If you have any extra time, go ahead and start working on assignment 102 because that's coming up. Next week we'll go through some examples so you can see what other students have done, and we'll talk through them and that sort of thing. Is there any questions? Yeah. It's right down here in your taskbar. It's supposed to be. It's like a little person standing in front of a green screen. It's not there? No. Okay. Well, I'll come around and see if I can find it for you. This is the kind of thing that I've fought because the images haven't happened, and so I know they're on the new computers, but we still don't have the new images. So anyway, if it's not there, I'll see if I can come find it. If not, we can install it for now, and you can play around with it.
I was going to say, if you just hit the start button, you can just search program, and it'll just come right up right there.
If you type Hugin, is it not even? Some of the computers don't have it. Yeah. Yep. So anyway, I'll come and we'll either install it or whatever.